Wilf Mannion, now a labourer, once the golden boy of the back pages, obligingly lends credence to even the crudest cliché.
I'll see you tomorrow.
For he was an international inside forward with a legendary flair and brilliance that can still be relied upon to jog the memory of even the most forgetful fan.
If you see film clips of him, you watch his hands. They always sort of... if you see any film clips of Mannion, they're like that. His two hands are always like that.
Radar was invented long before the last war. Wolfie had it. When he spread his arms like that, he had the radar on his fingertips. He'd dip, a defender go that way. In other words, if he dipped that way, a defender go that way. I've seen him beat men, 2 men behind him, from a throw-in. Never touched the ball, let it pretend to go that way and the other way. The ball would go between his legs, he'd let it go. And there's one of the duck eggs of Millborough side maybe at that time, Harry Bell waiting to cotton onto it, looking like an international.
He had the finest body swerve of any player that I've ever seen. He could beat 3 men with just 1 body swerve.
He's one of the best tacklers for the ball you ever saw. Never shirked a tackle, went for the ball, and invariably won the ball.
I never see Wilf lose his temper. As Tom said, he used to be hacked and hacked, but he'd always get up with a smile on his face and a way to find the open space. But he had a marvellous temperament, and he never retaliated.
But if Ayresome Park was the scene of many of the triumphs of Mannion's career, including one memorable Football League match against Blackpool, recollections of which still revive the most morose Teesside saloon bar, the talent was forged in a tougher, less spectacular school. Of course, the northeast of England, where they used to say you could shout down a pit shaft and come up with a first division football team, has long been used to tales of schoolboy footballing prodigies. Mannion's talent, however, was the product of a unique community. South Bank is the most working-class district of a working-class town. It's dominated by the steelworks which first brought Middlesbrough to life. The works were built by Irish labourers who stayed on to live and work there. It remains a fervently Roman Catholic community, with football as the only rival religion.
When you mention South Bank, you're talking about the enchanted city, as far as we're concerned. Anybody born in South Bank is gifted.
You know, we played with anything we could get hold of. We could, if we couldn't afford say a 6-penny ball, we'd make a rag ball or a paper ball. Sometimes we'd go to the butcher and he'd give us a pig's bladder and we'd blow that up.
We clubbed together and we got this 6-penny ball, which would be about the size of a, size 3 Casey. And there's little off-licence general dealers right opposite the back alley entrance, which of course was one of the goals. And there was a dray being delivered there that particular morning, horse-drawn dray in those days. And as we were playing, the ball happened to go under the horse. The horse lifted its foot and bang, and that was the end of the ball. And we'd only had the bloody thing about 10 minutes, so...
Football was the only way out. Other than that, you had to go into the shipyards or the steelworks, blast furnaces or anything like that. That's the only choice you had. 3 directors from Middlesbrough Football Club came down to my house to sign me. My brother didn't want me to sign at all. He wouldn't have it that I should sign for Middlesbrough. But the directors played on my parents and said he would be better at home if he went down south of the Arsenal and so on. That you don't know what he'll be up to. And my brother, when I signed, my brother flew out in disgust, and I'll never forget his word. He says, "Well, you've signed your death warrant."
career which was to reach its climax at Wembley in 1951, in the famous international against Scotland, with Mannion, as usual, the smallest member of the England team.
The accident that more or less finished him in football was at Wembley, playing for England. Billy Liddell broke Wilf's jaw. He was only, 5'7"? But to climb for a ball, it was just timing. Billy Liddell was below 6 foot. And he was way above Billy Liddell. That's how Liddell hit Mannion's jaw with his head, because Mannion was so far above him that he headed the ball, and Liddell headed Mannion's jaw. And I think that it certainly finished his England career anyway.
It was the last major international in which Mannion was to play. It was still light years away from today's instant action replays, and this makes comparisons between footballers of Mannion's generation and those of today largely a matter of memory. Men, matches and memories are hard to disentangle. But there's one game of Mannion's that's still talked about on T's side.
Well, his finest game for me was against Blackpool. Well, it's the finest individual football performance I've ever seen from a player. And at the end of the match, if you remember, Tom, the whole 21 players stood at the players' entrance and applauded him off the field, and he got a standing ovation.
What Wilf did when he had the ball on his head one moment and ran 15, 20 yards with the ball balanced on his head, the old wings flying there.
I think I'd just becoming engaged to my wife Bernadette, and it was the first time she'd watched a game of football, and I was hoping that I'd put on a good show. Everything was ideal that day, if I remember.
People, which I find quite remarkable when talking about Wilf Mannion, they remember one game against Blackpool. Well, I think this is absolutely incredible, because Wilf played so many games. The Blackpool game to me was just another game.
To me, I'd call it a bad game, really, for me in a way, because it was just like an exhibition game, you know. I played for myself, and it was as an individual. As I said, I didn't play as a team on that day.
Had he been playing football now, well, he could have commanded any figure. I mean, you couldn't put a price on him. He could have commanded any figure had he been playing now. He was born 32, about 30 years too early. That is the tragedy of Wilf Mannion.
But there were footballers of that generation who, although modest enough by today's standards, got themselves a living which lasted them after their playing days were over. Why not Wilf? Well, part of the answer lies in his shy and introverted personality.
He'd wait at a bus stop, and Wilf would stand in the middle. He didn't want people to see him. Generous to a fault. In fact, money, I don't think he really thought much about. Because he used to keep his money in his jacket pockets, and he'd put his hand in his pocket, and his pound notes would come out crumpled up.
But it's not just a question of personality.
To play in the smaller towns, as we did at Middlesbrough, the opportunities outside of football were limited. You got everything you were entitled to at Middlesbrough. Without a battle, everything. They were a wonderful club from that point of view. But with regard to getting anything extra, there was no way. The rules were applied to every player, irrespective of whether he was an international or whether he was the boy that cleaned the boots.
You see these people now getting testimonials, and nowhere near in the same class as what Wilf Mannion was. And even now, these days, so many years later, you read in the paper and they mention forward lines and Mannion, Finney, Matthews. Mannion's always included, and I think somebody should have done something for him in Middlesbrough.
It's a very sore point with both Wilf and I. We are the only two of the North East so-called stars that have never had a testimonial. You can go through them all, from Jack Milburn to Bobby Mitchell, Len Shackleton.
Oh, well, I give it to George Best and Giles, and people who had that natural ability, because they deserved it. They earned every penny They deserve every penny. I'd love to have got it myself, but they deserve the money. Myself, at the end of my trail, and I give the 20 years to Middlesbrough, I got nothing at all. Well, I might have been unlucky in football, but I must pay tribute to my wife. I think I had a marvellous wife, and I think if I hadn't have had her, I think I'd have broken up a long time ago.
There can't be much wrong with a man with such a firm grasp of life's priorities. And yet it still remains true that Wilf Mannion didn't get the rewards he should have done.